Welcome to brandrepublic.tv. I'm Philip Smith and I'm delighted to welcome you to the show which reviews the things everyone in advertising, marketing and media are talking about. Today we're going to open the show with the new Hovis ad. As you can see, someone's been using their loaf.
There you go, lad.
We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall never surrender.
Past your bedtime.
Is that you all, love? Yeah.
That ad was, of course, the centrepiece of Hovis' £15 million campaign and the September winner of the Thinkboxes. I guess I'm duty-bound to tell you that the great and the good of the advertising industry think that ad is the best thing since sliced bread. Anyway, you might not believe it, but bread is a marketing battleground at the moment. Warburton's isn't letting Hovis have all its own way and is investing an estimated £22 million in its own advertising. Of course, all this money is for nothing if it's not backed up by a big creative idea. Flush from the success from the Hovis Thinkbox Award, I'm sure, are my two guests today. I'm joined by Jon Goldstone, who is the Marketing Director for Hovis, and Danny Brooke-Taylor, Creative Director at Miles Calcroft Brigginshaw Duffy, the creative agency behind the ad. Gentlemen, welcome to the brandrepublic.tv studios. Now, of course, Jon, we've looked at the ad and we've seen that it looks like quite an epic. I mean, there's a lot of extras, a lot of money has gone into it, and it's a long ad. Mm-hmm. Isn't that a bit much for something that's so humble as a loaf of bread?
Well, Hovis is a big brand. I mean, it's a £500 million brand and was quite recently acquired by Premier Foods about a year or so ago. And I guess it's fallen from grace a little bit, so its market share is a little bit lower than it was a couple of years ago. And so as Premier's taken over Hovis, its intention was to relaunch the brand and basically get it back to its kind of glory days. I mean, it's a brand that's been around for 122 years, has this fantastic history, and the intention really is to bring it back to its best, which is and the advert is a big part of that.
You've talked about internal factors there, change of ownership, things that are happening in the sort of terms of market share and your rivals. But what about the timing now in terms of, we're reading about the rising price of bread, we're reading about the economic cycle, the cost of living. Has that been a factor in doing this campaign now as well?
I think so. I mean, actually, bread sales are healthy at the moment. I mean, people are eating, less sandwiches and so on out of the home and eating more bread in home. So in many ways, actually, the timing is great because bread sales are at a kind of an all-time high. And actually, I mean, a loaf of bread, even though it costs £1.20, that's about 4 pence a slice. So, for example, you can have a really healthy breakfast, 2 slices of toast for kind of 8p, which is a heck of a lot cheaper than a bowl of cereal or, popping into a Starbucks and buying a coffee and a muffin or something. So, I think bread, it's perceived to be quite expensive, but actually it's still an incredibly reasonable staple food.
So we need to look beyond the headlines a little bit there.
Absolutely.
Now, of course, the thing that everyone's been talking about, and certainly it's been no exception on brandrepublic.com, we've had a lot of comments praising the ad and the creative that's been behind it. Danny,
My mum logs on regularly.
Well, she's using a lot of pseudonyms, I can tell you that. Danny, what is the big idea behind the ad?
I suppose if there's one word, it would be timeless, and that's the quality of Hovis, and that's how it's dramatised in the commercial. Despite the fact Britain's been through all the highs and lows of the last 122 years, 2 world wars and 1 World Cup is a slightly politically incorrect way of describing it. This brand has been producing fabulous bread for people.
Mm. And so, some of us, of course, are old enough to remember the boy on the bike and the Hovis ads of the 70s.
I don't remember that, no.
One of us in the studio is old enough to remember it. Danny, what's that like when you're sitting down with a brief and you're trying to do something new for a brand?
Yeah.
Does that shackle you creatively, or how do you feel about that?
Oh, that was a classic no pressure kind of thing, because it was it wasn't just an industry praised commercial. It was a real. I think it was number 1 in some recent poll about most favourite ads in the British public. I hate that little git on his bike because it's made the last few months an absolute nightmare. But I think we probably realised we needed to raise our bar as well to meet that, and I think we probably have. I hope we have.
John, I'm sure John will tell you if you have. But John, what do you feel? How important is that sort of history to the brand, and certainly the way that people think back to that 70s work?
Yeah, I mean actually Hovis, that was in 1973, and even before that, some of the advertising was absolutely sensational. A lot of amazing print and poster advertising in particular. But as I came onto Hovis, it was pretty obvious that the one TV ad that anybody could remember about Hovis was the boy on the bike, and rather than kind of hide from that, and the very first conversation we had actually was saying, right, well let's kind of tackle that head on and make sure that we produce something which is a worthy successor to that. So something which is at least as famous and well remembered and well loved as that advert, which was a pretty tough brief, considering, as Danny said, that the boy on the bike's been remembered as one of Britain's favourite adverts. So we tried to use it as a challenge rather than as something to kind of scare us.
Of course, and of course, what we're delighted to say is that we can show you a little bit of all the work and the effort and all the extras that went into putting that ad together. Let's have a look behind the scenes.
Only Hovis could do an ad like this because the heritage Hovis has. And that's why we chose all the different iconic times from British history, brought them all to life, and just a celebration of Hovis intertwined with this country.
So you go from 1898 right through the current day, so I think there's 7 different periods.
The commercial is 122 seconds long, so there's a second for every year that Hovis has been part of our culture.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Danny, it certainly looked like a lot of fun. I mean, does making TV ads, is it still the glamorous business that everyone talks about?
Yeah, exactly the opposite to that. We were sat in an estate in Liverpool with kids throwing stones at us at one point. So it wasn't glamorous, but it was a real pleasure to do, not least because of the energy around it. I think every single person involved, everyone who had anything to do with it throughout the whole production, so wardrobe, hair, makeup, cameramen, extras. There's a real passion. Everyone got a real thrill from doing it, I think.
Absolutely, and I hope the viewers really enjoyed Danny's shirt on that one, because it looked very bright to me.
You borrow it if you want.
Thank you. Tell me, John, is TV still the lead medium when you're thinking about an advertising campaign and thinking about a marketing strategy?
Yeah, I mean, not always, obviously, but I think for Hovis, I mean, it's completely appropriate. I mean, it's this, as I said at the beginning, it's a fantastic brand, big scale, well loved, but also with a history of TV advertising which is very well remembered. So it felt like if we were going to get the brand kind of back to its best, TV would be a really, really important part of that. And actually, one of the kind of points of genius, I think, in the work that Danny's come up with, is to do something very different with TV. So to go with an advert which is 122 seconds long, so a second for every year of the brand's life, effectively.
That was your idea. Did you see what he did there? It's a genius, knowing that I was going to say back to... That was Jon's idea, though. I remember because it was we paced it out, and it was always going to go for, it was about 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, and Jon just said, well, it might as well be 122 seconds.
Yeah.
And I thought that was cracking.
Yeah. I do think, though, that wouldn't quite work for Google, would it? Because that ad would be over in a flash.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, yeah.
We've heard a lot, and of course you've won the award, and congratulations on winning the Thinkbox award. We've heard a lot about the professional sort of viewpoint of the ad. What's the public reaction been like?
It's been fantastic. I mean, on all sorts of levels. So sales are up, which is good. So sales are up about 10% on the period before the advert went on air. Mm-hmm. We've got a fantastic level of response on things like YouTube. So we've had over 150,000 viewings on YouTube. And actually, if you follow the strands of comments down, the most fantastic comments, half of which seem to be from Brian's mum, actually.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Brian is the kid in the advert.
Oh, I see, right.
Brian Mackey.
Mum seems to spend her life on YouTube watching it.
Guess what his nickname at school is now? He's Hovis, isn't he?
Yes. Yes, I'm sure. But
So I was going to say, so we've had all those things, and then also just spontaneous emails and letters into our company. So we've had over 1,000 people who've bothered just to write in with the most fantastic comments. You know, really rich, emotional kind of memories of when they were kids during the war, etc., etc. So.
And there's one. Do you remember that rugby player? He said, "I'm a 26-year-old rugby player, and I cried. Don't tell anyone about it." You know.
Bless. But yes, you've ruined his reputation now. But and of course, the thing, as you say, is it's boosted sales. That must be your ultimate judge of success.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a commercial world that we operate in, and you know, the whole principle behind the relaunch was to increase sales of Hovis and to increase market share. And you know, there's only over 7,000 people that work for the company. So you know, a big part of my job is to keep our business very healthy and keep it growing, and to keep all those people kind of happily employed. So as things stand, you know, things look very good on that front. Sure.
Of course, they don't look good everywhere because we're obviously entering a downturn in the UK economic market and certainly the retail market. How does that match up with the fact that you've come to screen with this massive epic, this big 2-minute long ad that obviously has had so much money and so much effort put into it? Isn't that quite a sort of paradox, a contradiction?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm a huge believer that the brands that best survive, you know, periods of economic downturn are those that continue to do the right thing and continue to invest. I was just reading an interview with the marketing director of Coca-Cola who said exactly that, which is they're intending to increase their marketing spend next year in a belief that the brands that will continue to invest are the brands that will survive and prosper. And I'm a huge believer in that. So, you know, that's what we intend to do next year as well.
Of course. Excellent. Well, listen, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for at the moment. But do keep an eye out for brandrepublic.tv and our shows in the future. Let us know what and who you would like to see on the show at brandrepublic.com/on-TV. In our next show, we're going to be touching on some of those points because we're going to be looking at the IPA Effectiveness Awards. And, of course, that's one of the things that we use to prove the effectiveness of advertising. Before we go, I want to say thanks to Danny and thanks to Jon for taking part in today's show. I'd also like to thank our partners at the IPA and our sponsors, Thinkbox. Thank you for watching. See you next time.